you like to answer. We also are, I hope I'm right about that, but we also are.
Appreciate it. Yay. So, thank you to all the members and friends at the Santa Monica KTC for inviting me to be with you guys tonight. It's very exciting and to be here and to talk about this text. Now, if I remember correctly, you all have a copy of the text. Is that right or no? I'm seeing some head nods. I'm seeing some.
Yes, I downloaded. I think it came with the email for tonight.
Very good.
I downloaded it.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, then the last class, I'm hoping that someone will remember how many verses we covered last week, because I know I gave a pretty good sized introduction to the text. But I wasn't sure if I got any of the verses covered. Do you remember anyone? Does anyone remember if I covered any of the verses? Because if you don't remember, I'll start from the beginning because I don't know. I didn't mark the text.
Maybe you should start at the beginning.
I think we're on page 6.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Page 6, that would be verse number 4.
Well, I have a quick question. So are we going from this book or the separate text?
Oh, I see. I think there's let's see which book did I have everyone read?
Well, there's text and there's the book.
Yeah, I think we're going to work on the book rather than the prayer, because because of time and the fact that it takes we timed it, it takes about 7 minutes to recite the prayer together. That I was thinking that maybe we would just do the class this evening and maybe next time try to read the text, because that way if we start right at 9:30, we'll get the text read first and then we can dig into the book. Does that sound okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So when you say page 6, I'm taking that to be page 6 of the commentary. Bruce, does that sound about right to you?
Yep, that's what I'm looking at, the PDF.
Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and then do screen sharing, and we'll go over. We'll start working on the text together. All right. So, now let's see if we can make this bigger. Oh yeah, that's good. After all this time, I'm starting to learn Zoom. Pretty cool. All right. So this is so much fun. You can see the entire application and the research that I'm doing. I'm researching going to Canada so that we can pick up the stupa. Columbus KTC has a stupa that is up in Canada at Lama center, and we have to try and get it before the 20th of September. Wish us luck. All right.
Can you even get into Canada now?
Yes, you can. As of right now, you can, and you're not supposed to be able to come back, but by some miracle, they do let citizens back into the country. So I will be checking with customs and immigration just to be on the safe side, so that our people don't get stranded in Canada.
Yeah.
Lama Kathy, just one thing. If there's any more stupas laying around in Canada, please let me know.
Not that we know of as of right now. If you're looking for one,
Yeah.
person you need to talk to is Lama Soltram Jeltsin
Okay.
at Carmeling, because they devised a method for making them out of bluestone. And so they have actually made one at a local quarry, And he can tell you about the quality of it and what it looks like and how to order one and so forth and so on.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Well, then we're going to backtrack just a little bit so that we know where we're starting. I'm going to recite a short prayer in English. From now until enlightenment is reached, we take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may we attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. And I'll recite a short prayer. Palden Sawe Lama Rinpoche, Dagi Chiwar Pede Denshila, Kadran Jembogane Jasunte, Kusun Toking Udrup Saldu So. Okay. By the way, I'm noticing that people are in the waiting room, so I don't know if someone is watching for them, but you might want to take a peek and see if there are people who are part of the group. So the subject of our study is the third Karmapa's prayer of aspiration for Mahamudra. And this prayer is about 25 verses to 26 verses long. And it is a complete teaching on how, on the view, meditation, and action, the ground, path, and fruition, and all things Mahamudra. The third Karmapa was a really great communicator and a great writer, and was able to compose this as a way of teaching the path. Because when we start at a Dharma center like KTC, when we start at a Dharma center, we start with a quiet sitting meditation, and then we learn compassion meditation, and perhaps we learn the mantra meditation such as Chenrezig. And by learning all of these forms of meditation, we become our mind begins to calm down and to open up to the possibility of awakening. And opening up to the possibility of awakening leads us to practice deeper and deeper in the lineage practices, including the practice of Mahamudra. And a lot of people, they start at a center like this and they say, well, when do I get to practice Mahamudra? When is it going to happen? And some folks learn how to practice Mahamudra through their practice of mantra. For example, when you do Chenrezig practice, you imagine Chenrezig is above your head. He's made of light. He shines light upon you. You supplicate him, and then the light that he shines on you turns you into Chenrezig, made of light, and you become the Bodhisattva of compassion in your imagination. And at the conclusion of that practice, you dissolve yourself, all beings, into the Chenrezig above your head. The Chenrezig above your head, you dissolve into you, and then you, as Chenrezig, dissolve into the seed syllable at your heart. And by doing that, you dissolve into utter emptiness and rest in that utter emptiness until thoughts arise, and then you re-arise as Chenrezig. So this very simple practice of visualizing Chenrezig, taking his blessing, becoming him, and then dissolving it all into emptiness is actually a form of practice of Mahamudra. Because the nature of our mind is said to be emptiness, meaning it's unestablished, it's limitless, and luminosity, the fact that it has a knowing quality, an experiential knowing quality. And these two aspects of mind are symbolically meditated upon in the Chenrezig practice and in all of the other practices that involve Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, visualization, and mantra. His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, when he was giving the Chenrezig empowerment at KTD Monastery in 2006, explained that Chenrezig practice is a symbolic meditation on the nature of mind. He said, if you were to say to someone, meditate on the nature of your mind as emptiness and luminosity, he said, you might not be able to do that. But if you said to a person, visualize your body as being made of light and empty inside, he said, you could do that. You could, that's something you could conceptually do. And he said, and so in this way, he said, the mantra practices we do are symbolic meditations on the nature of mind. So the good news is you don't have to wait until you finish all of the 100,000s of your Mahamudra Nundro, the 100,000 recitations of the refuge prayer, the 100,000 Vajrasattva mantras, the 100,000 mandala practices or offerings, and the 100,000 Guru Yoga prayers. You don't have to finish all of that to practice Mahamudra, because every time you do Chenrezig practice, you're practicing Mahamudra. So I wanted to start with this so that you had a sense of the reason for our reciting and learning this prayer is so that we can make the powerful aspirations that will someday, we hope, come true for us, and that we'll be able to study and practice Mahamudra with a teacher and so on. So that's a little bit of a recap to what we were talking about last time. And as you can see, we're starting with the very first line of the prayer, which is Namo Guru, in which we turn to our Guru as the Buddha Vajradhara. Vajradhara was the very first, you could say, source of the Mahamudra teachings, because the Buddha Vajradhara appeared to Tilopa upon his awakening. And when Tilopa became an enlightened being, he had a vision of the Buddha Vajradhara, who gave him essence, Mahamudra, pith instructions on how to meditate on the nature of mind. And so in this way, our guru, who gives us pointing out instructions in Mahamudra, is our Vajradhara. So all of the prayer begins with Namo Guru. The next verse is the preparation for making the aspiration. Let's see. Gurus, Yidam, deities of the mandala, victorious ones of the 3 times and 10 directions, together with your children, please consider us with compassion, grant your blessings so that these aspirations may be accomplished just as we intend. So this is the initial aspiration where we ask the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and enlightened ones to be witness to our aspiration and help us accomplish it. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas inspire us and give us blessings, and through those we're able to accomplish what we aspire to do. Verse number 2, may all rivers, the accumulation of virtue unpolluted by the 3 concepts flowing from the snow mountains of pure intention and action of myself and all the infinite sentient beings, may it merge into the ocean, the 4 kayas of the victorious ones. Oh, you know what? I had mentioned earlier that someone was in the waiting room. So is there no one who has the power to let the person in the waiting room in except me, because I'm doing the screen sharing? So this poor person who's been waiting for about 7 minutes now, should I let them in?
Lama Cassie, I can't see anyone in the waiting room. Can you see them on your side?
I can.
Because it doesn't show up. I mean, I thought I let anyone in.
Okay, very good. I went ahead and clicked admit, and so we'll see if that happens. Okay. So in any case, the foundation of the aspiration is our pure bodhisattva motivation, and then also our accumulation of virtue. And we're asking, may the accumulation of virtue that springs from the snow mountain of our pure intention, may it merge into the ocean, the 4 bodies of the enlightened ones. And then until we attain this fruition throughout our lives, may evil and suffering be unknown, and may we enjoy the glorious ocean of happiness and goodness. So until we become enlightened, may we be free of suffering. And so this takes us to the beginning of today's talk, which is going to be the foundation for the path. Possessing the supreme freedoms and resources endowed with faith, exertion, and prajna, attending an excellent spiritual friend, and receiving the pith instructions. May we have no obstacles to practicing these properly and enjoy the holy Dharma throughout all our lives. So we're pretty fortunate because we have what are called freedoms and resources. And you may or may not have heard of something called the 4 thoughts that turn the mind toward Dharma. But these 4 thoughts that turn the mind, I'll type it into chat. The 4 thoughts are the foundation for our practice of Mahamudra. Without reflecting on the precious human life that we have, and pardon me if the spelling is bad, precious human life, impermanence, karma, action, cause, and result, and then also the defects of samsara. Okay. Samsara. And so these, if we contemplate the precious human life, impermanence, karma, and the defects of samsara, then we have a basis that will give us, I guess you could say, a little bit of fuel for practicing Dharma, because the end product of Dharma is enlightenment. And but how do we gain enlightenment? We gain it through calming the mind and awakening the heart. So that's our practice of taming our mind and awakening our compassion, and then gradually working to reduce self-fixation, which the Buddha said was one of the root causes of suffering, is self-fixation. And so how do we lose self-fixation? First, we calm the mind, and by calming the mind, we begin to get a sense that there's more to our mind than just our thoughts. And then when we practice compassion, we begin to see that other beings are suffering too. And then this compassion begins to reduce our self-fixation even more. And then in order to make the leap into meditation, we need to have I guess you could say, the motivation to practice, because if we don't practice, then we don't achieve the awakened state. But we get really busy, and we have very busy lives, and it's very difficult for us to practice. And so if we reflect on the preciousness of our human life and how lucky we are to be who we are, and realize then that life that is so precious is very short, that karma is real, and that even a good day in samsara is still samsara, then hopefully we get inspired to practice the Dharma. And so that's what he's talking about here. The supreme freedom and resources. This is the precious human life, endowed with faith, exertion, and prajna. Faith, of course, we have faith in the idea of enlightenment. We have faith in the idea that we can achieve it. We exert ourselves in practice, and we practice wisdom, trying to understand what is best. And then attending an excellent spiritual friend. If we have teachers that we can go to for advice and instruction and follow their instructions, then we have a path that we can have confidence in. And receiving the pith instructions, meaning the instructions that will help us recognize the nature of our mind. Then he writes, may we have no obstacles to practicing these properly and enjoy the holy Dharma throughout all our lives. So at the end of each verse, I'm curious, does anybody have questions about this verse or any of the things we've talked about so far? Maybe there's questions in chat. I'll take a look. No questions?
Lama Kathy, could
Yes.
you briefly maybe explain prajna?
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, prajna. Prajna means wisdom, but sometimes it also means intelligence. So right now we have a certain amount of intelligence and wisdom. And a lot of what we have to find out, what we have to be wise about is what is to be adopted and what is to be abandoned. Because there are a lot of things in this world that are very attractive and that we might think, well, you know, I really want to have those things. I want to have, I want to be well known, or I want to have wealth, or I want to have a big family, or I want to have possessions or things like that. And we may think, well, that's what happiness is in this world. But that might not be the deepest cause of happiness for us. And so we may need to understand that what's to be adopted and what is to be abandoned, abandon a negative action, for example. We might think, well, you know, if people think that I'm a weak person, they won't respect me. So I have to be very harsh and mean with people, and then they'll respect me. But it doesn't really work in the long run. And so from the Buddhist teaching point of view, the wisdom we really need is the wisdom that knows what is to be adopted and what's to be abandoned. And so that we need to abandon negative action, and we need to adopt loving kindness, and also to understand the outcomes of karma, for example. If we are harsh and harmful with others, then the teaching on karma is that we'll experience suffering from that. And if we understand that, then we'll do less negative action and more positive action. So I hope that's there are many kinds of prajna, but for us as beginners, the first kind of prajna we need is the knowledge of what is to be abandoned and what's to be adopted. Slowly, we'll have a sense of greater wisdom. And so here he talks about prajna in the Trungpa Rinpoche in his explanation. He says, for the mental foundation of the Dharma, we need faith. And so when we have faith, we practice the Dharma in meditation, and particularly Mahamudra. Thus, we need faith that truly knows that this will benefit us. So the idea is that we have to see some value in practicing meditation and compassion. And so he says, if we know that the Dharma is sublime, we will have the good fortune to practice it. And then with faith, exertion will naturally arise. And with exertion, we will naturally develop wisdom. And so this is what what we're trying to learn, is we're trying to find out the ultimate wisdom. The relative wisdom is knowing what to adopt and what to abandon. But the ultimate wisdom is to know the nature of mind and the nature of all reality. The true nature of things. Does that help? Is that helpful?
Thank you. Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Other questions that people might have.
Lama Kathy,
Yes.
I don't know if you can see me. Well, this is kind of all-encompassing question, I guess.
Okay.
You know, we get instructions, or if you do this and if you do that, if you do the other thing, then you will experience a certain degree of enlightenment. But it doesn't really work that way, does it? It's almost like you have to have lived this X number of lives over and over and over and again until, let's say me, I get it through my thick little skull or whatever, in order to change. I mean, it's nice to hear the instructions, but where does it go? Am I kind of expressing myself? That was the one point. And the other point that I wanted to see how, whether if I'm on the right track of understanding, all practices that are within the school, or the Kaju school, all of them, Chenrezi, Lojong, everything is Mahamudra, while all practices in the Nyingma school is Dzogchen.
Okay. Yes.
How simplified am I there in thinking it that very simple way?
That sounds fine to me, because if we look at the ultimate teaching in the Nyingma tradition, it is Dzogchen, and the ultimate teaching in the Kaju tradition is Mahamudra. And what's fascinating about this is that they lead to the same place, and they each have their own form of nundro or preliminaries, and so if you do the Mahamudra nundro, then gradually after you have completed it, then you can study the Mahamudra. And Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said that both of these lead to ultimate Buddhahood. And so he said, but it probably would save you time if you picked one rather than trying to practice them both. So, but if you have extraordinary teachers who can teach both simultaneously, wow, that's a kind of an amazing thing. But Rinpoche, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche used to say, well, don't get discouraged and think, well, I'm not learning Mahamudra fast enough. Now I need to jump over and practice Dzogchen instead. It's a little bit confusing, he said, if you try to do too many at one time. He said the Kaju tradition has the highest teachings as the same as the Nyingma tradition, but some people have really extraordinary teachers who can teach both at once. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche used to say that he felt kind of bad because he felt he was deficient in Mahamudra. I'm sorry, in Dzogchen. So he didn't want to teach it ever. So he just taught us Mahamudra, and it was great. So I hope that answers the second question. I'll listen.
Yes, it does. Sorry. Yes.
Now the first question, that's a really good one, because I think that I think you've got it pretty straightened out in that we start with shamatha, we do Tonglen and learn compassion, and then learn Mahamudra in its various forms. And if we look back at where we were when we started and where we are today, we will see some progress. Khenpo Rinpoche used to say, he said, don't be like the impatient farmer who practices just for one, he says, like the impatient farmer put his seed in the ground, and then 5 minutes later, he was digging it up to see if it had grown any. And he said, we have to look back over I know, isn't that something? We have to look back over days, weeks, months, and years to see the progress that we have made. And I remember His Eminence Taisi Rinpoche talking to us once, and he said, well, the good news, he said, is that you get to keep all of the things that you've learned and developed in this life. You don't have to start all over again next time. He said, you get to build on what you've learned in this life, because he said, karma is real. And because karma is real, and you have learned these things and you have developed these things, he said, the next time, yes, you will have to learn them again. He said, but it will be like a snap for you. Have we ever seen people in this life who, when they took to a subject, they just took off instantly? It's probably because they had done it before.
Yes.
So does that help a little bit?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Because I'm reminded of the story that when someone asked the Buddha how many lifetimes it took to become enlightened, and he had the answer. I may be getting the whole thing wrong, but the answer was, imagine a mountain, a huge mountain, and imagine an eagle with a silk scarf. And this eagle comes around once every 10 years and kind of sweeps around the mountain. And so he says, when there's no more mountain because the eagle has come around enough times, that's how many lifetimes you need.
Yeah, this is I've not heard that one before. That's a good one. That's a very good story. So then the mountain will have been worn down by that time. Well, we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate in that we are part of the Vajrayana, and in the Vajrayana, it is said that you can achieve awakening in one lifetime, or maybe 7, or you get the idea. So, and that's because the Vajrayana practices deal with our most inner Buddha nature, and they nurture our understanding of Buddha nature. They help us see Buddha nature. They help us to achieve the accomplishment of Buddha nature. So there's that's it's a great blessing that we've had and received these teachings. And so it may take a while, but because we have the Bodhisattva motivation, it's technically we shouldn't mind. Maybe individually we might mind it taking a while, but because if we can continue to work on our Bodhisattva motivation, then helping others will be part of our joy, and helping others to be free will be part of our joy. So hopefully that will make it a little bit easier for us, and no matter how many lifetimes it takes, it's worthwhile.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, and one more thing, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, in the latter part of his life, he said he was asked about should we ask to be reborn with our Vajrayana master, or should we ask to be reborn in the pure realm of the Buddha Amitabha, the pure realm known as Dewa Chen, or Sukhavati in Sanskrit, or the blissful realm in English. And he said, I used to think when I was younger, he said, I used to think that you should be reborn with your Vajrayana master because Vajrayana is the quick path, and that the Mahayana takes all of those lifetimes, like how many times it takes the eagle to wear that mountain down with a silk scarf. And he said, but he said, I've read the Amitabha Sutras now. And he said, and I am convinced that being reborn in Dewa Chen is a good thing to do, because he said, then from there, you can see your Vajrayana master and emanate an emanation body, to go and study with your teacher. So he said, you get the best of everything if you go to Dewa Chen. He said, because it's very easy to be reborn there and there's no suffering there. So he said, enlightenment is very quick there, and then you can emanate and go everywhere and benefit beings in ways you couldn't if you weren't there. So everybody has a different way of looking at it. So that was something that he mentioned. So thank you.
Thank you.
There's time for one more question. Is there one more?
I think there was an earlier question in the chat that
Yes, could you read
says-
it for me? Can you scroll and find it for me?
Yeah, here it is. What are the 4 kayas?
Oh, yeah, the 4 kayas. I will send you a an explainer document. In fact, I'll write that down because I just sent it to somebody else the other day. And so I'll put that I'll send that to you tonight, and then you can share it with everybody. The 4 kayas it's a way of talking about the totality of awakening. For any ordinary human being, we've got 3 aspects. We have a body, we have speech, and we have a mind. And then we have the unity of all of those. And so right now we're experiencing life in an illusion and delusion way, in a confused way. And when we become a Buddha, our body, speech, and mind become the body, speech, and mind of a Buddha. And those are called the 3 kayas: the enlightened body, the enlightened speech, and the enlightened mind. And the 4th kaya is not a 4th body, it's just the inseparability of the previous 3. And so the words in Sanskrit are Dharma Kaya, which is the enlightened mind of the Buddha. And I hope I'm spelling these right. Yeah, it looks good so far. Sambhoga Kaya, Oga Kaya. I think I may be misspelling this wrong. I think I'm going to put an H there, Sambhoga Kaya, and that's the enlightened speech. And then the Nirmana Kaya is the enlightened body. Now, there are other ways that the 4 kayas are explained. They have fancy names and they can be explained in other ways as well, but this is just the simplified way. I can't spell Kaya, Svabhavakaya, but I'm going to try, and that is the totality and inseparability of the body of the Buddha. But I will send the explainer to you because I wrote out an explaining document that's based on Jamgon Khantrol's Great Path of Awakening that will explain a little bit more. But the idea was when they talk about the 4 bodies of the Buddha, what they're meaning by it, the symbolism of the 4 bodies of the Buddha, mean the totality and the depth and breadth of awakening. It's like complete, edge to edge, like that. Does that help?
Can you put up the name of that one that was called the totality Savra?
Yes, it's the very last one that I typed in. Sva ba va ke kaya. Svabhavakaya. And if you can't see it, I'll copy it and post it again.
Okay.
Yeah, because
Thank you.
I put it in chat, but maybe it somehow got missed. Hang on just a second. See if I can make that happen. I'm guessing the spelling is really awful. So I did my best. And it will be spelled correctly in the explainer document. I can assure you of that because I copied it from Great Path of Awakening. Does that help the person who was looking for that?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, good deal. Well, let's see. I'm going to just kind of like go down the list here. Max, did you read last time? Read one of the verses last time?
I did not. You read them all for us.
Okay, very good. So if you wouldn't mind reading verse number 5.
Do you mind if I don't read because I got very loud dogs in the background? They keep
Oh,
barking.
okay, yeah,
Sorry.
no problem. Okay, the next person is Wendy.
Okay. Learning scripture and reasoning frees from the obscuration of ignorance, contemplating the oral instructions destroys the darkness of doubt. The light of meditation illuminates reality just as it is. May the brilliance of the three prajnas increase.
Okay, thanks very much. So now you've kind of seen how the path is getting started. It starts with virtue and the accumulation of virtue and pure intention and the aspiration to be progressive. Then in verse number 4, it's talking about that we have this the supreme freedoms and resources of having the precious human birth. May no obstacles arise to practicing with the spiritual friend and so on. So what are those instructions that we're going to be practicing? Well, we're going to be practicing the prajna that realizes the path. So how do we learn? Well, he says learning scripture and reasoning frees from the obscuration of ignorance. So when we hear the Dharma teachings, when we read them, when we hear them, then that frees us from the ignorance of not knowing the methods and not knowing the teachings, and recognizing that we're in a situation of confusion and illusion. And that frees us from the ignorance of not knowing that. And then the second is the contemplating the instructions destroys the darkness of doubt. And then the light of meditation illuminates reality just as it is. May the brilliance of the three prajnas increase. And so, Max, you were asking about what prajna is. We're going to be learning more about it now. And so there are three prajnas here that they're talking about. They call it hearing, contemplating, and meditating. You may have heard this before. It's a progression. First, you hear the Dharma, then you contemplate it and see whether it's true for you, and then finally you meditate on it. So learning the Dharma is great, but it's insufficient for awakening. You have to actually then contemplate it to decide whether you feel it's true and to see its truth for yourself. And so hearing is good, hearing and contemplating is better, but it's still incomplete. We actually have to practice. We can't just amass books and things like that and think that amassing the books and the teachings is what is going to propel us into awakening. We actually have to meditate and come to know the nature of our mind. And this idea of meditation illuminates reality just as it is, meaning that through meditation is how we will know the nature of our mind. And so here, Trangar Rinpoche says, do we have prajna in us from the very beginning? No, we need to gradually develop the prajna. First, we need to hear the scriptures, the words of the Buddha, who taught 84,000 collections of Dharma. However, we cannot practice all 84,000. We need the pith or the essence of instruction. We can't say that there is anything, however, we cannot say there is anything that is truly without significance among the 84,000 collections of Dharma. We can't throw away even one syllable. All of it is full of meaning. Therefore, first one learns the teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha taught the complete path, so there is no other. He also taught us not to blindly accept his word. It says "ford," but it means word for it. But to examine the teachings with reason. He taught that if you act in this way, then that will happen. If you act in that way, this will happen, and so on. He taught about karma and so on. And this is the teachings of the way things truly are. Again, what to adopt and what to abandon. And so he says, without this, it's like walking around in a thick fog. And so he said, with the instructions, we understand what the path is and that we must meditate on it. If we meditate, then prajna will arise, meaning the wisdom that frees us from the confusion and delusion of samsara. And then he says, because prajna is able to clarify all of the actual truth, then light born from meditation will arise. Now, does this mean a literal light or enlightenment? It means knowing our mind completely, he says, there is the way things are for us in samsara, and there is the true nature of mind. And so he says we can see where our difficulties come from and where there is happiness and joy. And then this illuminates perfectly the way things are through meditation. So there you have verse number 5 telling us that we need to learn, to hear, to contemplate, and to meditate. Let's see who else is here. I see Ani, would you be able to read number 6? Is the printing okay?
Yes.
Okay, give that a try.
All right. The ground is the two truths, free from the extremes of eternalism and nihilism. The supreme path is the two accumulations, free from the extremes of exaggeration and denial. May we attain the fruition of the two benefits, free from the extremes of samsara and nirvana. May we thus meet with the unerring Dharma.
I love this verse is just so full of meaning, and he starts using some really interesting constructions here. You noticed in the last verse he talked about hearing, contemplating, and meditating. What he was saying would be really familiar to people who had learned the classical approach to Buddhist teaching. He's actually going to bring forward and talk about all of the basic frameworks that are used to explain the Buddha Dharma. One of the ways of explaining the Buddha Dharma is to explain you have to hear the Dharma, you have to contemplate the Dharma, and you have to practice the Dharma. So everybody say, oh, I remember hearing that. And then now this one is the ground, the path, and the fruition. That's another traditional presentation of Dharma, by presenting the ground, which is the basic nature of mind, by presenting the ground, and then how you practice meditation on that, and then what the outcome of that practice is, which is awakening. So here he's presenting everything in a way that people who have heard Dharma teachings will be able to absorb. They'll be able to get it, and they'll be able to see it easily. So the ground is the two truths. He has a lot of fun with twos here. Okay, the two of this and the two of that. Have you ever wondered what all that was about? Well, I have a theory, and it may not be the right theory, but it's my theory. And my theory is that there weren't many books, and you had to memorize things. And so if you knew you had 4 things to remember and you remembered 3 of them, you were doing pretty well. The 4 Noble Truths, right? And so this is why things are grouped in numbers. This is my theory about it, is that things are grouped in numbers so they're easier to remember. And so here he has some fun playing with all of the twos. Okay, there's the 2 truths. Okay, there's the 2 accumulations. Then let's see the 2 truths, the 2 accumulations, and the 2 benefits. So and then he talks about them as being the middle path, which is not stated directly, but the middle path is what is between the 2 extremes. And so he has a lot of fun with the idea of 2. Because the 2 extremes are eternalism, 2 of them. He comes up with 3 different sets of 2 extremes. Eternalism, meaning that everything is up to a supreme being, and everything really exists and is created by a supreme being who runs everything. Nihilism is nothing matters, nothing exists, and it's all chaos. The Buddha taught the middle path between eternalism and nihilism by saying all things come from causes. The teachings on action, cause, and result, and so forth is the middle path. free from the extremes of eternalism and nihilism. And so now the two accumulations are free from the extremes of exaggeration and denial. Down in the text here, he talks about what exaggeration and denial are. And he says, let's see, exaggeration is to say that something that does not exist does exist. And denial is to say that something doesn't exist when it does exist. And so forth and so on. Part of the reason that he talks about the idea of exaggeration and denial. Exaggeration is where you say everything exists. Denial is where you say nothing exists. But in the middle path taught by the Buddha, things neither exist nor do they not exist. And so the idea is, if we take the mind as the prime example of this, the mind cannot be shown to be a material thing. And yet, even though it's not a material thing, it's not made of, our mind is not made of atoms and molecules, it doesn't not exist because we experience knowledge, we experience a perception, we experience our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So mind neither exists nor doesn't exist. So again, he's using the idea of the Buddha's teaching being the middle path, free from the extremes, as a way of talking about two, the various twos. And then the last of the twos that he talks about, the extremes of samsara and nirvana. There is the idea that that if people are thinking all or nothing thinking or concrete thinking, they'll think, I'm either going to be stuck in samsara forever, or I'm going to go away in nirvana and never come back. Well, neither. The bodhisattva path is the one in between, because we're neither mired in samsara nor lost in the peace or clinging to the peace of nirvana. The bodhisattva gives up the idea of resting in peace to return to work with us to help us gain awakening. And so the fruition is to be able to be as a bodhisattva in this world, neither mired in samsara nor resting in nirvana. And so may we thus meet the unerring dharma, the middle path that is free from the extremes. And so you might want to say, well, what are the two truths? So let's talk about that. Two truths is the relative truth and the ultimate truth. The relative truth is the way things appear, and the ultimate truth is the way things really are. And the two accumulations are merit and wisdom. The accumulation of merit is doing virtuous things in order to improve, to purify our negative karma, and to accomplish positive karma. So that's the accumulation of merit. That sort of has to do with the relative truth of this world. And then wisdom, the accumulation of wisdom is the accumulation of the experience of our Buddha nature. And that's something that happens to us slowly and gradually over time. And then lastly, the two benefits are the benefit of self, meaning enlightenment for ourself, and the benefit of other is the attainment or the accomplishment of enlightenment for others, helping to lead others to liberation. So when we attain enlightenment, we accomplish the two benefits, both the benefit for ourselves, and then we become a better person who can benefit others. So, then this whole idea of the path and what the path is, he talks about it from the point of view of ground, path, and fruition. So the ground is the two truths, We've got the relative truth and the ultimate truth. That's the ground. We have the basic nature of mind and our confusion. And we're going to try to practice the wisdom and not practice the confusion. The supreme path is the two accumulations, purifying our negative karma, accomplishing positive karma, and then gaining wisdom little by little. And then through this, we attain the fruition, which is enlightenment, the two accomplishment of the two benefits. So that's a lot to be packed. That's a lot of twos to be packed in one set of verses, but it's describing the path. Any questions about this one? You'll have to read the commentary on this because he gets really deep into the different viewpoints. And it's a little bit much for us, but it's fun to read if you'd like to look into that. Any questions? Well, I guess we're at the bottom of the hour. What is our time frame, folks?
One hour for you. What? An hour?
Oh, it's an hour.
we-
Okay.
Unless you want to do a little longer, that's fine. But it's late
Yeah.
for you.
Well, I understand. No, I think what we'll do is we'll stop here because the number 7 is going to take a little bit more explaining. And so rather than go farther tonight, I think we'll stop there and then we'll pick up next time. Help me remember, folks, we're picking up on number 7. I don't have a Post-it note. Maybe I do, that I can put in the book so that I can remember. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna put this in. I've got a tape flag. And this way we'll be able to start right there on number 7 next time. So what do you think? There's a lot in here. And this is why you recite the prayer, because that way it seeps in gradually. Any other comments, questions, thoughts?
So we should recite the prayer tonight after the class ends?
You know, if you have the time, it would be fun. Yeah, if you could do that. And again, I'm not 100% sure if folks have the time to do that, but I would recommend that people try to recite the prayer once a week out loud in English. We don't have to worry about doing it in Tibetan right now. Oh, yes, there's a person who has a question. Yes, go ahead and ask the question.
Hi, Lama Kathy, Tashi Delic. Can you hear me?
I can.
I'm Sunny, and I've not had the pleasure of meeting you in the 3D, but I really enjoy your teachings.
Oh, thanks.
And I want to touch on a slightly controversial topic, and I want you to know that there's no disrespect, whatever meant, but particularly I want to get your view because you are a woman. And it involves, you brought up Chenrezig Z meditation earlier, and about 1974, I took refuge and got Chenrezig Z Wang from the previous Kalu Rinpoche, and then later on, after practicing it for some time, I got permission from Venerable Tranggu Rinpoche to lead people in the Chenrezig Gom, which I've done countless times in the low desert and high desert of Southern California. Now, since that time, I don't want to do Chenrezig meditation anymore after reading the authors like Sultry Malioni and Miranda Shaw and June Campbell, who have exposed that the Chenrezig, actually the deity Chenrezig came from Kuan Yin, and Kuan Yin, the goddess, was co-opted to suppress the goddess, the mother goddess aspect of the Buddha Dharma. And, to the extent that most tokus are recognized are male, and even Milarepa said women should pray to be reborn as a man so they can enter Sukhavati. And it's such a turnoff to me to hear this kind of thing. I really now want to aspire to be born in the Dakinis Pure Land and help to awaken people to what's going on behind the scenes, so that we can lift the female, energy up and not suppress it anymore, because so many of the problems in the world are due to patriarchal dominance. I would like your take on that, please.
Yeah, it's an incredibly big topic. And, and I really appreciate the fact that you've thought about it really deeply and that you've studied really deeply. I appreciate that, because you know how it is. A lot of people, they don't study a topic deeply, and then they, then they give what people are now calling a hot take, meaning they've only kind of studied it a little bit, and then they start giving their opinion, right? So, so what's coming from you is coming from your heart, because you've done a lot of study and sincere looking at this. And I do agree that there are lots of problems in just about every system of thought and philosophy and religion that has come in this world. It's really, a lot of it has imperfections of all kinds. And anytime you give something sublime to human beings, we do have a habit of messing it up. So, okay, right? Let's face it, right? I think that if we look at the teaching of the Buddha taught, do no harm, practice virtue, tame your mind. And I think that if we can stick with that and just practice that, we would have a lot going on that has nothing to do with gender, has nothing to do, you see, because the mind is beyond gender. That's what my teacher told me. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, when I first met him, I said, hey, what's with this situation, not having a lot of women teachers? What's with the situation? And what he said was very wise. He said, look, the Buddha taught that the mind is without gender and that men and women were absolutely and completely equal. This was the Buddha's teaching. He said, anything you see that is not that is culture, not religion. And so from that moment, I have held that in my heart, because I got that like the first time I met him. And so I have to myself continue to work with what my teacher gave me. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. And, we all have to do that. And I appreciate the fact that you are looking for a compassionate heart, and you want justice for everybody. And I really appreciate that. And I make the aspiration that you and all of us get to a place where we can go beyond these things. And, just by respecting each other and continuing to take those steps and to respect each other. So, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you for asking. Okay, good. Because of the time, we'll have to stop here for tonight, but I'm really appreciate that you were here and that everybody came tonight. And we're you know what I tell people? I say we're all stumbling together toward the light. We're all stumbling together toward the light. We just keep going. And I'm hoping that we can continue to do that here. Here we are. So, why not do some good stuff while we're here together? So, because of time, I'll stop here. But next time, I am encouraging people, just recite the prayer out loud once, and even if you don't know what all the words mean, just recite it. And then gradually over time, the prayer will start, little pieces of it will start popping up for you, like, oh yeah, I remember that from the prayer, or oh yeah, I understand how that could be. Or you might think, I really don't get that. I'm going to write that down and ask about that next time. And so there was a Western teacher of Dharma who said, look, when you read the Dharma, you should have two baskets in your mind. One basket should be labeled, I don't get that. I don't understand that. I don't get it. And then the other is, I get it, but I don't know if I believe that. So there's the I don't get it and the I don't know. He's, that's the way he explained it. He said, just put it in one of those baskets. He said, just don't put anything in the trash, because eventually you'll be able to figure out a lot of it. And interestingly enough, my teacher, Kempo Karthar Rinpoche, on his first teaching that he gave in Ohio, he used the words that many of you will have heard. He said, look, if you don't like what you are hearing, he said, just take what you need and leave the rest behind. And so those of you who are familiar with the 12-step tradition will recognize that term. Take what you need, leave the rest. And so I'm hoping that we can all take good care of ourselves and take care of each other. So I'm going to say good night for now, and I'm going to recite a little dedication of merit. I like to do it the way that Kempo Tenkyang does it. So those of you who went to KTD and heard him lead Chenrezig there, the way he says this prayer goes like this. Through this merit, may all achieve the omniscience of Buddhahood. May it defeat our enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may we free all beings. May we free all beings. May we free all beings. Thank you, folks.
Lama
Now-
Cath,
Happy.